Minister of Finance has expressed satisfaction with the fiscal regime in place, which has been characterized by fiscal consolidation and fiscal discipline. Speaking at the recent EU Business Forum, Andrew Vumbe, a director in the Minister of Finance, said the fiscal regime is complementary to the monetary policy, which are all working effectively towards the country's macroeconomic stability.
Over the past 3-4 years, the fiscal has contributed to monetary stability, but as of now, we have fiscal discipline where we have targeted our budget deficit to be a maximum of 3% 3% of GDP per year. And over the past 5 years, we've managed to keep the budget below this 3% threshold. And for this year, we are projecting a 0.4% budget deficit as a percentage of GDP. So we're bringing back discipline in the fiscal management and also ensuring that the fiscus contributes to stability, to macroeconomic stability. On the exchange rate front, there have been serious reforms in terms of making sure that the market plays a significant role in price discovery of the exchange rate. And we are now using what we're calling the willing seller, willing buyer interbank market, where the sellers and buyers are coming together and determining the foreign exchange rate.
Now, the recently held EU-Zimbabwe Business Forum is already showing signs of impact, with multiple investment proposals now on the table. Speaking to ZTN Prime, European Union Ambassador to Zimbabwe, Jobst von Kirchmann, described the forum as a clear success, confirming that the Zimbabwe Investment and Development Agency has received several concrete expressions of interest from European firms.
That we had 1,600 meetings, can you imagine that, on platforms B2B, on online, spontaneous meetings. So lots of businesses met. We have heard from SIDA yesterday that there are firm offers of several million euros for companies to work together. So I think that's a very concrete outcome. But I would also like to say that SIDA and also the European Union, we keep this platform open and we will follow up on potential joint ventures between European companies and Zimbabwean companies. And of course we want that there are a lot of deals in the next couple of months.
Ambassador von Kirchmann highlighted strong investor appetite in key sectors such as renewable energy, agriculture, manufacturing and technology, noting that discussions have now moved beyond interest to actionable proposals.
The opportunity part, I mean, on renewables we heard 38% of electricity production is currently missing. 16 billion in capital is missing. I think that's a huge opportunity, particularly for solar in a country where you have 300 days of sunlight. When I look at the horticulture sector, the value chains which were presented, where the demand from the European Union goes well beyond the current production from Zimbabwe. Just to mention blueberries, for example. Even if the current production would be doubled, increased by 100%, it would still be below the demand from the European Union. So these are value chains which are, I think, easy, and they are, I would call them a no-brainer. And I think companies could feel that. And on the mining value chain, of course, I mean, it's the main value chain in Zimbabwe.
The high-level forum, attended by over 300 business leaders, policymakers and investors, was designed to strengthen trade and investment ties between the EU and Zimbabwe. The EU says this is just the beginning, with the forum expected to become a regular platform for building lasting economic partnerships. Von Kirchmann emphasized that the next phase is implementation, with both the EU and ZIDA committing to fast-tracking joint ventures and converting dialogue into signed deals in the months ahead. Now, for perspective in terms of trade between Zimbabwe and the European Union, I said it when we started the program that the current value of trade has been about 880 million. That's for trade and investments between the EU and Zimbabwe. Now, that's been predominantly in the field of agriculture, particularly where horticulture is concerned. The EU is Zimbabwe's fourth largest trading partner. And of note is the fact that the EU has been a key uptaker of Zimbabwe's horticultural produce, accounting for about 40 to 50%. So the EU has been a key destination for Zimbabwe's horticultural products. Now, what's been the key theme at the recently ended conference has been how to see to it that there is an expansion of that particular trade and perhaps explore other areas of trade and investment between the EU and of course Zimbabwe. Now, when you look at what Zimbabwe has been able to import from the EU, we're looking at various forms of cereals, wheat, and so forth and so on. And also you're looking at pharmaceuticals as well as perfumes and other cosmetic products. So the conversation at the conference was, how can we explore other areas of trade between Zimbabwe and the EU? How can we tap into renewable energy? How can we tap into technological transfer between the EU as well as Zimbabwe? And I asked the 16, of course, heads of delegation from the 16 EU countries that are in Zimbabwe, that were in Zimbabwe rather, a question, and I said, are you also looking at getting into the mining value chain? Because we've seen billions flaunted by Eastern investors over the past 2-3 years. Would that be an area of interest, perhaps exploring the EU value chain? And in their response, a good number of the EU heads of delegation, they did indicate that they want to understand more the landscape of Zimbabwe. They want to understand areas of interest and areas of need so that they can get into some degree of collaboration between Zimbabwe, or should I say Zimbabwe's mining sector, and of course the European automobile manufacturers that were of course present at that particular conference. Renewable energy, as I mentioned, is another key sector, as well as also manufacturing. Zimbabwe's manufacturing sector, manufacturing capacity utilization has been sailing below 55% for a good number of years. So the idea there would be to bring in new technologies and amplify the level of manufacturing here in Zimbabwe. Well, that's all we had for you in the Morning Rush Markets in the first hour.